Have you ever woken up and realized your eyes are open, your mind is awake, but your body just won't move? It's like being trapped between sleep and reality. A lot of people call it sleep paralysis and say it's one of the scariest things a person can experience. I used to think that was an exaggeration until it happened to me, but nothing could have prepared me for what happened that night. I was traveling for work and staying in an old hotel downtown. From the outside, it looked beautiful, but inside, it had a heavy, unsettling atmosphere. I had just finished a long, exhausting meeting and went straight to bed. I passed out the moment I laid down. The next thing I remember was opening my eyes in the darkness of the room. I was awake, but I couldn't move a single muscle. The only thing I could control were my eyes. I looked around, trying to understand what was happening. And that's when I saw her. In the corner of the room, a woman. She was just standing there, staring at me. She wore an old-fashioned black dress. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. She started walking slowly toward me. My heart felt like it was going to explode, but my body was still frozen. She knelt down next to the bed, and when her face got close to mine, I realized it was my mother's face. But something was wrong, deeply wrong. It looked like her, but the eyes, they weren't hers. She whispered something in my ear, but I couldn't understand a word. Then she stood up and walked toward the door. The moment she vanished, my body unlocked. I jumped up, screaming for my mom, completely panicked. I ran out into the hotel hallway, but it was completely empty. I shouted her name again, and all I heard was the echo of my own voice. I went back to the room, trying to process what had just happened. I sat on the bed, still shaking, and just stayed there in silence. And the strangest part, my mom had passed away 2 weeks earlier. Have you ever woken up in the middle of the night, unable to move, and just knew something was wrong? Even if you couldn't explain what, that's how it all started. I woke up around 3 a.m., tried to move, but felt that all too familiar sensation, paralysis. Then I heard footsteps in the hallway. Suddenly, the door opened. It was my mom and dad. They walked up to my bed and just stood there beside me. Both of them were crying uncontrollably. It was disturbing. I couldn't move. I wanted to scream, or at least beg them to stop, because it was terrifying. And then out of nowhere, they both turned around and left the room. At that exact moment, my body snapped out of it, and I ran after them. I rushed to my parents' bedroom, and there they were, sleeping peacefully. My heart was racing. It was one of the strangest and most disturbing things I've ever experienced. I went back to my room, trying to make sense of what had just happened. I stayed awake for hours before I finally managed to fall asleep again. A week later, after leaving the mall, I was hit by a speeding car while crossing the street with my girlfriend. I was hospitalized for a few days. And in the hospital, my parents stood by my bedside, staring at me, crying. It was almost the exact same scene I had seen days earlier during my sleep paralysis. I'm not a superstitious person, but if I were, I believe without a doubt that it was some kind of warning, or a glimpse into something I still don't fully understand. And now, every time I close my eyes to sleep, part of me wonders, was that moment just a nightmare? Or something else, something I'm still not ready to face? I was home alone at night. It had been a long, exhausting day, and I decided to unwind by watching a horror movie. I put on an old classic, wrapped myself in a blanket, and turned off the lights. The movie was terrifying, full of unsettling scenes and creatures that seemed to crawl right off the screen. The tension was at its peak, and my heart was racing, as if I were inside the movie myself. I tried to stay focused, but the fatigue hit hard. What started as a short pause turned into a brief nap. But what happened next wasn't part of the movie. I woke up on the same couch, but something was off. The lights were still off, and the TV was completely silent. I couldn't move, my body was frozen. And the silence, it was suffocating, like something was waiting. I couldn't see anything, but I knew something was there. Something in the room with me. Then I heard footsteps. Getting closer. Fear gripped me, but I was still paralyzed. It felt like the movie had stepped out of the screen and become real. The footsteps grew louder, until I felt a presence right in front of me, watching me. Panic surged through me, but my body refused to move. Then, a soft voice began to speak. A whisper, familiar, distant. It was the voice of the main character from the movie, but he wasn't speaking from the screen. He was right in front of me, calling me, inviting me. Come, it's okay. And then I moved. The silence was suddenly broken by the sound of the TV turning on by itself. I looked at the screen. The same movie was still playing, but this time, the characters were staring directly at me. All of them, eyes locked on mine. When I fully woke up, sweating, heart pounding, the TV was off, but the fear, it was still in the room. And deep down, I couldn't shake the feeling that the movie never really ended.